Again, brothers and sisters, Happy Easter. And to my Filipino brothers and sisters, maligayang Pasko ng muling pagkabuhay. Our evangelist today is John. And John had a very theological presentation of the resurrection of Jesus. And as we look back on his description on the suffering of Jesus, today, he add more color to the narration of the first day of the week after Jesus had buried. And this is supposed to be the resurrection day, the Easter day. And just like Macau, very small, Jerusalem is also very small, and everybody knows the event. And they look back on what happened on Good Friday, and Sunday morning, maybe nobody talk about it anymore because Jesus had died already, and he was buried, and the case about him has already been concluded. No more talk, no more gossips about him. Everything went with him when he was buried. So his friends, Jesus' friends, Mary of Magdala, and the other women went now to the tomb to perform the Jewish practice of embalming the dead. Usually it is done by women, so they have to go there. And if you listen carefully, they do not have in their mind that Jesus would rise from the dead. They do not expect that Jesus would rise from the dead. As a matter of fact, Mary of Magdala said they have taken the Lord from the tomb. When they went back to Simon Peter and the other disciple, they told them the remains, the body was not already there. And what they have in mind, their conclusion is that they have taken the Lord and we do not know where they had put him. So brothers and sisters, this is again another controversy in the Jewish community in Jerusalem. The body of the Lord, the body of Jesus, whom they had killed on Friday, was not there anymore. Now, there are no scientific evidence actually that Jesus had risen from the tomb, from the dead, because there was no science then. Now, what is the greatest proof that Jesus indeed rise from the dead? Now, actually, we can see that the proof, the evidence, and we can read the evidence on the life of the apostles, on the followers of Jesus. They who did not understand the meaning of death. If we go back to the narration of the gospel, the stories of the gospel, Jesus had been telling them, I will suffer, I will die, they will crucify me, but on the third day, I will rise again. The crucifixion, they understand because it is a common practice. To die is understandable because it is a natural phenomena that when a person ended his life, when a person ends his, if it is the end already of the person's life, then he died. And everybody knows that it is the end of life. But to rise again from the dead is a very mysterious phenomenon for them. They did not understand it. And they never expected that on the third day, he will rise again. But after the resurrection, the first proof of Jesus' resurrection is the transformation of the life of his followers, his apostles in particular. So after the drama of the cross, these people were just a bunch of cowards. They were together, and of course they were afraid also that the Romans might kill them. So they are anticipating that, and so actually they are hiding. So they were at the upper room. They were so terrified with their dreams gone by and their shattered dreams. Yet a few weeks later, we see them boldly take a whole Sanhedrin in a religious debate. They were very, very much empowered now after the resurrection of Jesus. So there is this sudden transformation in the lives of the followers of Jesus. And they simply defy and risk their lives in having a debate with the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court of at the time. Now, how on earth can such a change in a group be explained? Only a most extraordinary event that would happen, that would empower them to have that feeling of faith, such as the resurrection from the dead. So could produce a turnabout of that magnitude of faith from them. And all of them, including even some of the disciples, they were empowered by the belief that Jesus indeed rise from the dead. Well, some skeptics on this point object that the belief of the disciples in the resurrection was just a product of nostalgia. They miss Jesus so much that they imagine him appearing to them every now and then. Their longing for him and their simple faith in him eventually convinced them that he had returned to life. Well, psychologically, it can happen. Emotionally, it can happen. Just like in our experience, if somebody died in our family and we long and we miss that person, there is this little belief that that person might be alive. Sometimes we talk to that person and as if that person is alive. This is the justification of some skeptics in saying that maybe they are just hallucinating, they are just dreaming that Jesus is alive. So this is an indigenous theory, but it is contradicted by everything in the gospel say. Far from imagining that their master had risen, the disciples did not even believe that Jesus could have risen from the dead. Even the women who were the first to see him alive had come to the tomb to embalm him. So convinced they were that the whole miserable affair was over. And as for the apostles, they did not believe at first the testimony of the women. And finally, when Jesus appeared to them, they still didn't believe it was him and thought that they were seeing a ghost. So the apostles' faith did not produce the resurrection, but the resurrection produced their faith. Jesus was not there, and Jesus appeared to them alive. And all of them witnessed that Jesus was true to what he said, I will rise again. And this empowered them to really, not only to explain to others, but it was seen in their lives that indeed Jesus rose from the dead. The second proof is which is confirmed in history, is the reality of the consistency of their belief of these apostles. Many of them, or all of them actually died. They died in testimony for that faith. That they have been with Jesus, they hear Jesus during his lifetime, they witness Jesus healing, and they have been witness that Jesus rose from the dead. Jesus appeared to them, not in a dream, not when they were drunk or so much drinking of wine, but they were naturally on their daily living, and Jesus appeared to them. So if they had just imagined or they had just invented the resurrection, some of them at least would have recanted their story at the last minute when the threat of death became imminent. They could have just said, no, it was not true. We have just invented it. No. Even if they were martyred, at the last moment of their life, they testified that Jesus is indeed God. At the moment of that miserable death, tragic death, when they were killed by the executioners, still they affirmed that Jesus is alive. Jesus is God. Brothers and sisters, this is also a challenge for us because these are two important proof in history. First is the transformation. The second is the constancy of the life of those who have been witnesses of the resurrection of Jesus. The third will be all of us. All of us will be the witnesses of Jesus. And our witnessing should be seen in the life that we live. So there should be at least some transformation in us. And there should be constancy on how we live our faith as Christians and as Catholics. That is why the resurrection of Jesus is a challenge for all of us. How can I testify that indeed Jesus is alive in me? How can I transform my life so that others will say, indeed, Jesus is alive. I have seen it in your life, in the way you live, in the way you forgive others, just like Jesus, in the way you understand others, in the way you understand your husband, in the way you understand your former enemies, in the way you have been patient with others, in the way you have been so constant in loving others, especially those who are unlovable. This is witnessing, this is testimony, and this is constancy that indeed Jesus is alive, alive in our life, just like the apostles. So brothers and sisters, let us bring this Easter challenge into our life. We journeyed together in welcoming the Lenten season on Ash Wednesday. We journeyed towards the 5 Sundays of Lenten season, and we enter the Holy Week. We share together how Jesus suffered. We meditated together how He died on the cross. But we testify together to that Jesus who rose from the dead on Easter Day, and that is today. And all throughout the coming days, we will be meditating that Jesus who became alive again, not only in history, not only in the books of the Bible, in the pages of the Bible, but also in the pages of our lives to come. Let us pray fervently that this Easter season will be a moment for us to testify that indeed Jesus rose from the dead on the way we live and on the way we act, especially with others. I remember the story of Mahatma Gandhi. I have told this story to you before. I don't know if you can still remember. Mahatma Gandhi had a very good life. His life is just like a Christian. And so he has a Christian friend who was a pastor, a Christian pastor. And one day the pastor told him, Mr. Gandhi, you are living a very, very good life, and your life is even much more exciting and better than the other Christians. Why don't you become a Christian? Then Mr. Mahatma Gandhi said, how can I be a Christian? I do not know what Christianity is all about. The pastor gave him the Bible, a book about Christ, the teaching about Christ, and every now and then he would go to him and would tell him about Christianity. And Mr. Gandhi was so faithful in studying Christianity, especially in reading the Gospels and in reading the books about Christ. After some time, the Christian pastor, the friend of Gandhi, went to him one morning and told him, Mr. Gandhi, how can we now arrange your baptism so that you can now become a Christian? And Gandhi looked at him straight in the eyes with a smile. And Gandhi told him, I'm sorry, I cannot be a Christian. And the pastor said, why? Is there something wrong with the books that I have given you? Mr. Gandhi said, no, in fact, I appreciate very well the Bible. It is such a very good literature. I was moved by the story, and I even like very much Christ, even better than the founders of any other religion. But my problem is, Christ, His teaching, and even the gospel in the Bible, these are beautiful things, but I cannot see them in the life of the Christians. If they would just live this teaching, if I can just see Christians living the teaching of Jesus, I will be a Christian. This is a challenge. This is another challenge for us, my dear brothers and sisters. We have the teaching of Jesus, but we find it hard, really, to live that teaching. Let us pray in this Mass that the light of Christ in our Easter candle will be our light. Let us pray fervently that He will be our guide in the darkness of our problems, in our relationship. May Christ be our light in the darkness of in the life that we are having today. Maybe we are enduring some problems, relational problems, immoral problems. Let us pray that He may be our light in our life, just like the apostles.